I'm doing this for the kids. Yeah, I'm doing this for the kids. By now, it's an ongoing joke here. What's actually up with the kids? That's a running joke on this channel. But for me, it's not that funny at all. And dear Axel writes, who today reminds me a bit of my godfather with his really fresh outfit. He also had a great sense of style. So first of all, greetings to you, Axel. Hello.
Hello, he made me older again. Sometimes I'm the older English teacher, now I'm the older godfather.
That's an absolute compliment.
You know you want to put the discrimination on my back just because you're always sitting around looking so fresh in sweatpants. But I'm just not that cool. I'm not that kind of cool guy, and I never will be. Think about the kids instead.
Yeah, exactly. What about the kids?
It's not about the kids, this is about children.
Axel, you met my godfather in the woods. He's a total legend in my life. Great style, but it reminds me of someone else. He sometimes wore a double-breasted jacket. I don't really see it on you.
Yeah, it's a great one. It's really, really good for people with a belly like me. I also like the style, which is why I usually prefer double-breasted jackets if I can find one.
Then Axel, yes, it's about Carsten Stahl, a topic that was important to you that we're addressing here now. We likely can't cover everything in this short time since Carsten Stahl has a lot of material. And you were, let's say, really triggered because there's currently a campaign going on in your neighborhood which you're responsible for. Stop Bullying by Carsten Stahl in cooperation with the city of Cologne and the city of Bonn. Is that correct? Summed up like that?
Exactly right. So with representatives of the cities? Yes, now a campaign is being launched by his Stop Bullying Camp Stall Association. And yes, to me and to you and to the loyal viewers of our channel or your channel, where I am always regularly and very gladly a guest. Carsten Stahl won't be a stranger to us. Carsten Stahl is a provocateur. There's no other way to say it. He's made it his mission to fight bullying. But how he does it, we'll talk about that in a moment. Yes, and he falls into it. In his posts, you can easily track on Twitter that there's repeatedly a tone that delegitimizes the democratic institution, democracy itself. Yes, and I have a huge problem with that too. Honestly, I just can't stand him personally, simply because of his whole attitude. Yeah, this loudmouth who thinks he's a gift to humanity and presents himself as an anti-bullying guru, a self-help guru. But basically all he does is shamelessly promote himself. Yeah, now he's found willing supporters, yes, enablers and accomplices in Cologne. Of course, I also confronted them about it. And especially the people from the Christian Democratic Union, to whom I said, well, just take a look at what dear Mr. Stahl says about the Christian Democratic Union and about the political system in Germany in general. And at some point, they couldn't argue against it anymore. And then, as a final statement, they said, yeah, that may all be true, you're right, but it's about the children, right? And I said to myself, wow, folks, seriously, we really need to talk about this because unfortunately, this isn't an isolated case. Yeah, it's always like that, this well-crafted narrative of his. Carsten cares about the kids, he's for the kids, he's against bullying, that's a good thing. No, if it's worse, then if it's about kids, then it's not about bullying. So no one can accuse us here of having something against Carsten Stahl because he stands up for children. That's basically a good thing. But how he does it, what he does, and what he passes on to children on his social media channels, that's what we want to take a look at here today.
Exactly, but I have to say, I met Carsten Stahl in person. Uncomfortable. Deluxe, like squared, but I think I've already mentioned that here before. I think he can't get out of his role, that Carsten Stahl is still the private detective. I don't think he can leave the role. But I have a lot on my list. Wait, so we can start the campaign now, since you just mentioned it. What really, really upsets me about Carsten Stahl is also this point, and that is... No idea, maybe an outline good. He always accuses people of not supporting child protection because they are not visible in child protection, and that's done in a devious way. He has often attacked athletes and people in the media who have said, "What are you doing for the children? Do you not care about children? Since you don't support my organization, you must not care." No, Carsten, that's not true. And actually, Axel and I and many others in the organization support the prevention of extremism and are involved in anti-violence work. But just because someone isn't a member of this organization or has never mentioned the organization against extremism, that doesn't automatically mean they're for extremism, and that's how he often attacks people. He attacked soccer players before, even Manuel Neuer. What are you doing for the kids? Nothing, just keeping your millions. If you gave our organization several million, we could protect every child in Germany and end bullying. Oh dear Carsten, so to always say that you're the only one in Germany who cares about child protection? He often criticized politicians for allegedly not acting and attacked them over certain laws. And that's a really disgusting game, I have to say.
He also cultivates a mob mentality if you look at his posts. They are no different from many other demagogues. The pretext is always for the children we have to be for the children. But basically, it's mainly about Carsten Stahl. He wants to be seen as a guru, he wants to be the great authority, the great expert here, which already seems a bit strange because dear Carsten Stahl doesn't have any relevant training in this field at all. I would think that if you're going into schools with such a sensitive topic, you might also be dealing with bullying victims. And then also working with people who have experienced violence, who have suffered abuse, who have experienced sexual assault. I would definitely hope that someone knows what they're doing in that situation. And not just barging in like a bull in a china shop, dragging people in front of the camera just to promote themselves, and then yelling and blaming everyone else just to hear people say, yeah, Carsten is someone who does something for the kids.
We'll discuss those methods soon, like bringing kids on stage. Who here has bullied someone and who was it? Do you still do that? Otherwise, I'll come over here and give you a karate chop. But first, let's talk about what made Axel's tie color pulse, the one he's wearing in the upper third, in response to this statement. Now, let's get to what Axel sent me. It's about the Stop Bullying campaign. Cologne Bonn is taking a stand together for respect and tolerance. There are several listed there, but of course it's about Carsten Stahl. And now here in the press release, which I'm supposed to read out briefly. Axel, I'll do it that way since that's what you wanted. Press release. Cologne Bonn. United for respect and tolerance. Stop bullying. Local city heroes and Carsten Stahl start prevention days in Cologne and Bonn. Cologne, 15th. October 10, 2025, the local city heroes. This regional project will be yours.
This is a regional project.
Exactly. The Cologne City magazine is self-explanatory under the direction of Aiden Aroma and the motto from Neighbors for Neighbors, working together with Carsten Stahl. Mr. Gero Wiesenhöfer, Managing Director, Friends Association of Sparkasse Köln-Bonn e.V. Dr. Ralph Elster, Mayor of the City of Cologne, the designated Mayor of Bonn, Guido Dues, as well as five-time boxing world champion Felix Sturm and other supporters. A strong sign of respect and tolerance. From the 3rd to the 6th, in November 2025, prevention events will take place in Cologne and Bonn, where students, teachers, and parents will be thoroughly informed and sensitized. The initiative is backed by Carsten Stahl, a violence prevention trainer, child protector, and founder of the Alliance for Child Protection and Stop Bullying in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. That's it for now, just a quick overview. I have to say, I've already seen performances that made my blood run cold. I've also had young people in my circle of friends who were participants there. Afterwards at school, it really required a lot of follow-up work. We'll address that soon. Let me finish this page first. Brief background of the initiative. The editorial team of the local city heroes received numerous calls and messages from readers in recent months, responding to reports about Carsten Stahl in the last issues. Many pointed out the increasing problem of bullying in schools and youth centers in the region in their letters. These responses show how great the need for action is and motivated the local city heroes, together with Carsten Stahl and partners from Cologne and Bonn. A clear sign for tolerance, respect, and purpose, sitting together in unity. Prevention Days program. One moment, I'll just quickly go through this now. Of course, my mistake, I accidentally turned the page here. Sorry.
Zik. Kong has to show up here too.
Zik is like that. Public relations and support starting from the 24th. Starting in October 2015, the campaign was accompanied by poster and information campaigns from Ströer. Those are these digital advertising display stands, which we also have up here in Cologne and Bonn. This public relations effort aims to highlight the issue in both cities and raise awareness, encouraging widespread participation and reflection on these important social problems. Why bullying prevention matters. Bullying can cause severe effects, from anxiety, depression, and isolation to suicidal thoughts and fantasies of escaping or living in poverty. As social media use grows, cyberbullying has risen sharply. Preventing bullying is essential for children's and adolescents' mental health, to strengthen community and unity in our schools in Germany. Only if students, parents, teachers, and society together take responsibility and a clear stance against bullying, violence, hate, racism, and prejudice can an environment not be created in our country where respect, tolerance, and empathy are taken for granted. About the local city heroes. The magazine Local City and the leadership of Mr. Aidan Aroma are among the leading city magazines. With the motto, "From Neighbors for Neighbors," they cover local initiatives, people, social projects, and businesses that build community. With Local City Heroes, they highlight unsung neighborhood heroes through various social projects. People who volunteer to support the community. Readers may suggest neighbors. A rooting process selects local city heroes and gives them deserved recognition. This way, the magazine shows that every individual can make a difference and actively encourages the community to shape social life locally. Yes, but then we don't need any cash register steal yet. Then we don't need any cash register steal yet. Then everything has already been said. Local City Heroes isn't cash register steal, is it?
Yes, but there were already reports based on which residents and readers came forward to report problems. That means there was already advertising for cash register steal. And when I highlight things like respect, tolerance, empathy, that's just my own personal, very subjective opinion. A stark contrast to what Carsten Stahl represents. Because you never hear any conciliatory or gentle tones from him. He's not known for empathy or for seeing things from another perspective, but rather Carsten Stahl. He's a bulldozer, he throws out his theses, he puts on a show, he shouts, he yells, he puts others down. And I would even go so far, when I look at certain statements he's made about our politicians, is what he's doing also bullying? And to put someone like that on a pedestal, to open a door for them and legitimize them like that, that's really something, especially when you look at what other cities have to say about it and what experts say about his program and his so-called sensitivity courses.
I would pick up on the first topic you just mentioned, namely that from my point of view, Carsten Stahl himself acts as a bully. He has a very, very high claim to the truth and is very, very loud towards his so-called opponents. And that's something that needs to be made clear again and again here, guys. You are now an opponent of Carsten Stahl if you're not on his wavelength. He appeared in several Berlin videos with Michael Kuh, and I felt he nearly threatened the young man with violence. I think it was pretty close to turning violent. And Axel and we also have to deal with people being critical when we show up somewhere as former extremists. I think that over many years we've proven this, also to the organizations we've worked for, that we've earned a certain reputation. That's why I don't want to be unfair to the funds. I do think that in some ways he sometimes has the idea, yes, that's me, but it's very, very distorted and he doesn't even see it anymore. His self-image and how others see him, that's it.
It's never good to let yourself be guided by emotions, one of the main driving forces. He himself has already said as much. It's a traumatic experience that he went through with his girlfriend at the time. She was allegedly raped by 3 men, and in the process, the child she and Carsten Stahl had together was lost. And of course, that's such a shocking, such a terrible experience that it naturally makes your blood boil, makes you furious, and you just want to scream at the whole world. That's understandable from a human perspective, yes, but to turn that into a concept and to keep presenting yourself as a character like that over and over again, with an absolute dogmatic claim to truth, with a complete delegitimization, even of objective criticism, that's already the wrong path being taken there.
Unfortunately, I have to as well. I told the personal story about when I was with him. I was once invited to Zugriff Carsten Stahl. In that episode, he didn't engage with me or my story at all. I think I read a Wikipedia entry beforehand, which is the least a guest should do. Just take a minute for that. At least read his Wikipedia entry, or if he has one, or if not, then at least read some newspaper article about him. I went there with Marissa and Jordan. While taking a photo for Jordan, he nearly exposed himself because he wanted to be in the shot. I didn't say anything or care, just let it go and told him to put his stuff away. When I told my story, he flinched just as I expected at Kerborzeig. He looked at me like, what kind of idiot is this guy? You know? Such a little right-wing extremist. I mean, he really flinched. In my channel's video, you can see how uncomfortable it was and how closely he slid toward me. I have this little microcosm around me where only a very few people are allowed in, and I have no problem with that. The circle was so small and close that my breathing was strained, and I just wanted to leave. Filming felt really uncomfortable, and sometimes it's just a bad day. There are also people who could say that about me, that they met me once and said, oh God, what a jerk, that can depend on the day. Okay. Long story short, it makes little sense. Is that it, Axel, what you just said? There have already been several challenges to Carsten Stahl that his story hasn't been verified. This accusation is out there. I'm only partially jumping on that bandwagon. Unfortunately, both of us have the great luck that a lot about our inglorious past is floating around on the internet, that there are videos, that there are pictures, that it's documented. And this challenge was something Carsten Stahl could never resolve because he kept talking about his gang, crime, and all those things. And there's no verification. That means there were always people on the internet who said, okay, is this just another role? So is this Carsten Stahl, the private detective again, who also spun this private detective role a bit beforehand? That's why you have to take all of this with a grain of salt. I can only speak from my own experience. This story he's telling, when you've seen it several times, also online and so on, it almost feels like a script to me, just to me personally. Some of the emotions seem acted to me. When it's always about this, Trudy Stars, the kids, and then crime, it's all very similar, almost the same.
He can do that instantly, you have to admit, whenever he shows up. Unfortunately, he's still always invited as an expert. Yeah, that's not surprising at BILD or Focus. And even when he actually says things I can agree with, where I think, man, that was a good point, then at the push of a button, that side of him comes out again, his face turns bright red, and he starts ranting, banging, and yelling. And that's not really an emotion, it builds up somewhere, even if you're a hothead. Axel.
I should release the video soon, maybe we can even react to it again. Hold on. There you can see the exact moment I start to feel uncomfortable. He did a move there that he always does. He did that in my video too, and that's when I realized something was wrong here. He wanted to do it that way, it felt staged to me. But that's just my personal perception, guys, just from a personal point of view, I can tell you that. The editorial team had to convince me to keep filming. I told Marius downstairs, I'm done, not filming with him again. This is the last straw. The editorial team even apologized for it afterwards, said, yeah, it's just so uncomfortable and so on, please, please. That was then cancelled, or rather not cancelled by others like people think nowadays, but that was wild. But what is it about? For me, the whole story isn't verified, not by anyone, not by any companions, nothing at all. There's no proof whatsoever. Carsten is, I think, 6 years older than me, or 5 years older. Not yet to the point where you could say there was nothing. We're talking about photos, digital items in the past. So he's now 51, 52, 53, somewhere around there. It's not yet at the point where I would say there couldn't be anything. But let's move on to the next point that you already mentioned. Namely, Carsten, who quickly becomes a bully himself on the internet. Or yes, exactly, you sent me something. Those are Twitter messages, right? That keep coming up. Yes, sometimes. Here you can see one, for example. I hope you can see it too.
Yes, I can see it too, yes.
We won't forget. Want to comment?
Well, we won't forget. So he also really stood out during the corona pandemic. Yes, when he rode the wave with the lateral thinkers. Yes, with the anti-vaxxers. And yes, of course, that's the kind of speech that was repeatedly used by this increasingly radicalized lateral thinker scene. We do not forget the tremendous crimes that had been committed. You will all be held accountable. You will face a new tribunal where you will be punished by the people. And he's riding this wave with this post, yes, even in the year 23, if you read it. What you have done to the people in our country with your corona policies, your measures, your discrimination, exclusion, and division, we and millions of people will never forget. Yeah, well, that doesn't sound very conciliatory and it doesn't sound very empathetic either. And especially for someone who claims to stand for respect and tolerance, such a one sided partisanship should actually be out of the question. You'd have to say, yes, I understand people who were afraid of the vaccination. I have criticism of the measures, but I also have understanding for people. The panic, the fear of this virus, yes, sometimes people may have overreacted, but he just presents himself as a radical loudmouth and knows exactly what kind of audience he's appealing to.
A post from an angry Walter, a typical post from an angry Walter. Yes, here, Ms. Baerbock, who actually authorizes you to make the statement that we are at war with Russia. She was the foreign minister. She is the foreign minister. Yes, she is responsible for saying things like that we are in a state of war with Russia. Yes, exactly. She legitimizes it as the foreign minister. I'm not, and neither are millions of people in our country. So don't talk such crap or keep your mouth shut. Carsten Stahl, citizen and father, yes.
Exactly. She still shows no empathy. You can criticize, you could say, well, officially we are not at war with Russia. You could even consider it dangerous when a foreign minister says something like that. Well, I'm completely on her side there. I also thought it was right and important for her to address it. We're at war with Russia. Not just since the now public constant drone overflights, not only since the attacks on critical infrastructure in Germany, but also here. The angry Walter, yes, Carsten, keep your mouth shut, you don't speak for me. Who actually authorizes you? That's really just ranting and blustering, and you would actually expect that more from the borderline dim-witted angry Walter, who has no idea how the world works while sitting at his tile table. But Carsten Stahl is smarter. He knows exactly what he's doing, and his actions are methodical. His entire approach appeals to exactly this mob mentality in the name of justice, appeals to base instincts, appeals to aversion, to anger, to lack of empathy. Yes, with a claim of my truth, I'm the one in charge. And the other one, the opponent, he's stupid, he should shut up, yeah, he should disappear. And that's already a very, very, very dangerous way to talk, a very dangerous approach when you think about it. This guy is being invited to schools by well-known politicians, by the future mayor of Bonn. Yes, he's being promoted there as a top coach for respect and tolerance. And then people go to his page afterwards and think, hey, he's a cool guy, I can trust him. And then they are immediately drawn into an environment that represents the exact opposite of respect, tolerance, and empathy.
Axel, it's simple. For me, it already is. The audience here tracks and comments on us is already simply...
Lost is lost, that's it. They're lost, those are lost souls, there's no respect, there's no tolerance, that's just angry Walter and nagging Sabine meeting up there.
Just a moment, you can see it here again. If someone killed, abused, or raped my daughter, if my daughter were killed, abused, or raped, I wouldn't discuss it. Dial tone, 3 exclamation marks, my ears hurt. Our justice system and our politicians tolerate and protect murderers, rapists, and child molesters, and that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is.
That's a disgusting accusation. That's democracy delegitimization. That's not objective criticism like saying, hey, these verdicts don't protect the victims enough or harsher sentences are needed here. All legitimate things that can be discussed and are being discussed. But with his blanket condemnations, yes, he ends up attracting those people who say the system is the problem, it needs to be abolished. We need a new state and system, and that's already democracy. He's expressing hostility in both tone and content.
But you said it. Carsten Stahl, is it not necessarily just about the children now? There's a very short clip, which I think I've already shown here on the channel, but I want to show it again very briefly. For me, it's just one thing I will, which for me is representative. I know it's out of context, but I also wouldn't know how to put this into any other context that would make what happened here, okay? Because the method, before we get to the critical assessment by experts in a moment, is what I have seen so far from his workshops. It is very loud with a lot of shouting, far too emotionally charged for me, as if young people are supposed to be broken. And then afterwards it's like, yeah, here, Chaka, just sign here, now we're all against bullying. Axel and I are not idiots ourselves. We realize a one-day workshop and inspirational talk can't make someone a better Democrat or suddenly start defending freedom, but it's about giving an impulse. But what happens here is that children are often dragged into the public eye, put on stages, and sometimes people even shout there. And have any of you ever bullied someone, like from what I've seen? Well, who among you has ever bullied someone and so on? Ah, how dare you? So, are we all against bullying now? And this is almost like a cult leader to me yelling around, well, it's a show.
Yeah, it's a show. But basically, he's destroying young people there. That can sometimes be seen in recordings of his performances. You can see children there who are completely detached, who are being shouted down, yelled at, and then left alone afterwards. There is no follow-up, and there is no positive resolution either. And I know too, we give tough lectures. Yes, these are serious topics. And when we really open up about how our lives went in extremism in crime, that can also be triggering. Yeah, that's not something where people would say, wow, what a great story, but rather it brings people down. But on the one hand, we end with a positive message. You can change, you don't have to suffer because of your mistakes. Yes, we have a constitutional state that reaches out to you, and you can take that hand. And you will always find help, especially to get your life back on the right track. And there is follow-up. Yes, there are materials provided to the teachers who work with us, who then continue to work with the students in long conversations, discussions, and workshops to help them gain understanding. And not just leave them standing there alone, but that's exactly what Carsten Stahl does. He puts on his one-man show. He's the big shot, always yelling. He scares the kids, drags them on stage, and really tears them down, using every trick to show how bad bullying is, then just leaving them there.
I think you only really see it here. It's very, very clear also how Carsten handles it when he might be criticized in his work or, yes, when it's brought up.
Yes, acknowledged.
So could it be that it's going to take a while? School isn't back in session yet, right?
All right, then I invite you to just support me directly and not just throw things in from the sidelines all the time.
I think your work against bullying is good, but having a child appear in front of the camera where you can't foresee the consequences.
Do you actually know my show? Do you know my show?
If you actually know my show, then help me, support me. But if I think your approach, your methodology, your lack of methodology is crap, I definitely won't support you. And the question is completely legitimate. You can't just drag a young girl there just to put yourself in the spotlight. She pays, but you can't handle a critical question. People just shout her down immediately. What a bully. Yeah, the anti-bullying expert is bullying again himself. That's nothing but bullying, what he's doing there.
Do you know Stahl hard against bullying?
No.
But maybe they are there and managed to stand up for the child?
No shit, cleaning up is really awesome. What a God complex. When I go into such a highly sensitive field, work with children, and expose them to the risk of being traumatized by my work, it's just cheap, it's just really lousy.
Axel, much easier. Here we see children, some of them very young. What are they, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old? We usually only start at 14, 15, 16 years old because of the topic. He yells, especially around the kids, instead of calmly asking, what's wrong? What didn't you like about my work? Come over here, stand next to me for a moment. I'm just asking them, no, he's really going off here. I don't even want to know, like attack.
Attack, but he's an egomaniac. To me, he seems like a total egomaniac. Carsten Stahl. Is this about Carsten Stahl? Now, with his anti-bullying commitment, he's found a topic where he can present himself perfectly as a savior of the world. To be honest, what does he actually do for the children, and what income does he have? He uses that to finance his exorbitant fees for his appearances, which he then presents as a great fight against bullying. But here he also says very clearly for the follow-up, yes, go ahead, do it. Why aren't you doing it? Dude, that's your job. You get paid for it. Sometimes you even cause these traumas, this intimidation.
Basically, yes, whatever you, Axel, if the city of Cologne wants to spend 100,000 or 200,000 on it, they should do it. But then you also have to make sure you use it wisely. And someone who can actually do that. And that's why I'm doing it. Axel, like him.
Can't do it. Let's say for now he can't do it. Yes.
Here, kids are sometimes forced in front of cameras and onto stages to come out. I was the bully, and when I stopped, others got yelled at instead. I saw this happen firsthand. I'm not allowed to mention here who that is because this person is also well known and told me about it. Sometimes the children came home and said it was really something, then there was major drama at school. That lasted for weeks at that school where he was and what it destroyed there. The bullies became the bullied, it flipped. Now they claim, see, we knew it and now they have it all. That really backfired badly.
For all of you who protect her, because it's your city, I invite her.
Man, you can't just put a kid out there as the victim, like she's the victim now, you all have to see it that way. Man, Axel, not me either. A shiver runs through me.
This talk, honestly, I know that from my events, this bombastic, loud roaring right here.
Your city, your children, you have to do something. If you don't do anything, are you to blame for bullying, for everything bad that happens?
Holy moly.
Ambassador of Stop Bullying, do you have the courage that you claim to have? Do you also have it to help this child?
Look how he's going after her.
But that's also bullying. That's what I see on that level.
Ma'am, thank you very much.
Who really asked the one question, who didn't attack him maliciously. Then he puts on this guru act. He saw it. She had to applaud too, otherwise she probably would have been left out. But those are well-known rhetorical tricks. You already said it at the beginning. Whoever isn't for me is against me. Whoever is against us is an extremist. Anyone who doesn't support or criticizes our work is an extremist. That's how Carsten Stahl works, like many Carstens.
There's also some context here in case you want to read it out loud.
For that, I can't really see it right now. But wait a second. A professional distinction and distancing from Camp Stahl AV, critical statement from the 5th, February 2020. Mr. Carsten Stahl's initiatives and Camp Stahl EV. The seminars against bullying and violence offered are not certified by the German Institute for Confrontational Pedagogy, and are therefore in no way connected to each other. Mr. Stahl does not list any pedagogical or didactic qualifications, nor any trainer training in the field of anti-violence or anti-aggression in his self-published ITER. The self-proclaimed prevention coach cannot demonstrate any professional or scientific background knowledge for working with children and adolescents in such an emotionally sensitive area. Mr. Stahl's one-time school events can hardly achieve any lasting effect in the long run. The former bouncer does not provide the serious and therefore long-term support for classes, as is required, for example, in the coolness training of the German Institute for Confrontational Pedagogy, which must take place over 3 to 6 months in order to meet the relevant quality standards. Directly after a very spectacularly staged media appearance by Mr. Stahl, with hundreds of students in auditoriums or gyms, schools are left to handle severely emotionally shaken girls and boys alone. A definition of the term bullying, if it is given at all, is completely arbitrary and does not meet scientific definitions, for example, those of all voice. Evaluation studies, empirical data on effectiveness or at least underlying educational or psychological theories of the methods used in quotation marks are not made transparent or simply do not exist. The value of confrontational pedagogy. KP's Wittener Gal should not be undermined by the loud and unprofessional behavior of Carsten Stahl. Wilfried Schubart of the University of Potsdam is a leading expert on school violence and bullying. This is also the title of his publication, which has become a standard work and was published in its 3rd edition by Kohlhammer Verlag in 2019. Schubart sees in confrontational pedagogy in Coole Nester an important and necessary addition to prevention and intervention concepts, and even speaks of a paradigm shift toward more confrontational elements and clearer boundary setting when it comes to the perspective of violence prevention. The impression conveyed by the Camp Stahl Association that muscles, tattoos, and loudness are prerequisites for successful prevention work falls flat, as the following success story demonstrates. The Berlin teacher and seminar leader for trainee teachers, who who was awarded the Federal Cross of Merit on a ribbon. Ortrud Hagedorn gained nationwide recognition in the 1990s with the development of her conflict model, which can still be found in many schools today. She coined the formula acceptance plus confrontation equals social development. This clear approach with heart, 80% empathy and 20% confrontation forms the core values and foundation of the conflict model, highlighting the positive, optimistic view of humanity and humanistic values behind this preventive interventionist approach with a focus on victim protection. Victim prevention? Try but do not agree. This premise, coupled with the self-critical note that confrontational pedagogy in the form of the Ultima Ratio is not to be implemented as a substitute, but as a supplement to other educational concepts. This fundamentally distinguishes the German Institute for Confrontational Pedagogy and its certified anti-aggression and coolness trainers from Carsten Stahl and his Camp Stahl, whose seminar offerings are hereby clearly disassociated from. So here it was made clear once again from a professional perspective what we just said. Carsten Stahl has neither any training, nor does he have an emulation program, nor does Carsten Stahl have a concept for the preparation and follow-up of his one-man show. And it has often led to real problems in schools because the students get stirred up, because sometimes the students are even destroyed by it. Sometimes by his verbal attacks or then being pushed into a victim position. The positive message is completely missing here. It's only based on verbal radicalism. To write to people?
Writing to people, writing to people, writing to people, that's just not it.
Yeah, he's getting away with it easily and cheaply by acting remorseful. I'll say it plainly just as it is. And you can only be warned about that. And other cities, after being warned by experts, have already distanced themselves early on from working with Carsten Stahl and his appearances. In Berlin-Neukölln, for example, in Düsseldorf, schools and school authorities have decided that these events will not take place. It's all the more unfortunate that now there's a door opener for this in Cologne and Bonn. Yes, by willing helpers who have not responded at all to the criticism brought to them. I can only say that's a sad situation.
And I have to say, sometimes I have that problem. We also face many critical voices, and it's entirely valid to address them. I always have to deal with the Northern League, who think our work is crap, but it's often about personal sensitivities too. And sometimes it's also about the fact that they're offended themselves, wondering why they're not invited with their workshops and so on, and I get feedback about that too. Okay, not exactly ideal either. You can live with all of that. I mean, I can too. Of course, it can happen like that. Of course, there's a certain look being played with, and I also play with my past. Pictures and videos are shown simply to engage the young people. You can criticize all of that, you can criticize everything, and I think that's something many people in the field of prevention still haven't understood. What I also had to learn is that there are many ways and methods to reach children and young people. Some manage to do that on a very emotional level, others on a rational level. Where does fascism lead? Where does totalitarianism lead? Does this occur in dictatorships? Some connect emotionally through biographies, others through people. I think the field of prevention needs to adapt to that. There are many different methods, and many of them are justified. That's just a point. We handle criticism well.
We're just a small cog in the machine, not the world's saviors, so no one should expect us to show up. And the topic of extremism is off the table. We create opportunities, we're part of educational work, we're part of prevention and preventive work. Yes, but we're not the all-encompassing whole. Yes, different approaches always have to be used. Yes, many people have a variety of problems that manifest in extremism.
Everyone.
Entry and exit are both individual. That's already a different approach than how Carsten Stahl presents himself.
I think I wanted to add something. But even in this letter, I have to say, I don't think it's quite appropriate for Professor Dr. Jens Weidner and sociologist educator Rainer Gahl and Christian Gade. So to speak, now here, also, for example, now here, yes, the one from the association is fighting. Stahl seemed to suggest that muscles, tattoos, and being loud are needed for prevention work, but I don't think he actually means you need those things. That's just how he is, and I think it reflects a superficiality here that I find terrible. Yeah, well, Carsten Stahl could also be unpleasant as a 1 meter tall skinny guy, yelling around and being unpleasant, I think. It's a shame that they're focusing on appearances like tattoos and so on. Exclusion is a form of degradation. In this letter,
That's a matter of taste. And I don't know if he would either.
No, I think that's inappropriate. I find it inappropriate. Reducing someone to their appearance, those people should really question themselves, I think. Whether that's okay, I don't think that's okay. No, that's correct because it's about how he does it and the shouting. Physical play is a factor such as how he confronts the woman. But he could still do that as a bigger, angrier man, whether he's 1.60 or 1.70 meters tall. But I think it's a shame to focus on appearances like that. Yes, but not only that happened, of course, there's also a connection between Carsten Stahl and not just angry citizens. I can only keep recommending to check out his Facebook account and see who comments there, although you can't really control that either. I've always wanted to prove haters wrong, and I'll do that with Axel soon. I'll quickly note that. Where's the video description? Is it here? Wait. And still, he reveals a lot there, especially when you're liked and get a lot of likes from a certain group of people. I recently said, if your band has 90 neo-Nazis in the crowd, you need to ask what your music is attracting. Is it wrong to attract 90 neo-Nazis? Carsten Stahl is a typical example of an angry citizen.
You have to expect that you'll have to speak out about it when you see what kind of clientele you're attracting and cultivating. With his tone, with his choice of topics, with his statements. And at some point you say, that's not for me, I don't want that. You also have a duty to say, I'm going to call out your side too, distance myself or avoid being influenced by you. Not so with Carsten Stahl. On the contrary, Carsten Stahl actually seeks out the company of people who hype him up. And apparently he doesn't care what kind of role they play in the political arena.
Yes, Axel, it's not just that the angry citizen is attracted, but of course he also goes to classic AFD events. At this point, it doesn't matter anymore protecting the children, I don't care. Here you can also see a picture, 30. June 30th, 7 post-Meridian topics about bullying and violence in schools. Dr. Rolf Weigand, AFD Mayor in Mittelsachsen, is that correct?
Großstürmen in Mittelsachsen was also represented in the Saxony-Anhalt State Parliament for many years. Yes, this AfD state association has been labeled as clearly right-wing extremist for years. I believe that was the third state association, after Thuringia and Saxony-Anhalt, to be labeled clearly right-wing extremist. And yes, these are not exactly the nice conservatives where you could say, oh, the AfD is just a better Christian Democratic Union. Instead, they work with a completely different clientele. That means...
So, Axel, child protection is only okay for German children?
Yeah, maybe, because the main thing is just think about the children. And the AfD, they just say it like it is. Terrible politics, state, and justice system all need to be wiped out and rebuilt. No, AfD wants that too, and I support it for the kids. Apparently, that seems to be the justification coming from him. I haven't heard from him and don't know how he commented. That likely upset some people. But it's not surprising when you look at his demeanor, his tone, his statements, that he is then invited to those circles and also appears there.
Axel, not just those circles, but the next circles as well. Is there a video from 1 or 2 years ago? And 2 years probably feel like an eternity on the internet, but compared to older people's years. At my age, and soon Axel's, 2 years online feels insignificant compared to how long we've already been doing this. Axel, we've been on this channel for 10 years, and you've been here a long time. Thanks for everything. Here, Carsten Stahl meets with Boseman, Yes, the rapper also met with Stephen Habibi Feldman from the Circle of Manuelson. I don't even know if I want to go through this again. If I say something here, I'll get messages on Instagram or something afterwards. He also meets Werner Frankfurt here. Do you know him?
Basically, he's someone who still lives in the old stories and glorifies his activities as a pimp. I don't know if someone who stands for child protection is necessarily best represented by someone like Werner Frankfurt. I'm assuming, but you must know when Carsten...
We don't have to assume anything there. I mean, someone who makes their money from prostitution with brothels, that just doesn't go together with child protection. I'm sorry, no matter how you look at it, it doesn't go together with protecting people at all. You can just donate 5,000 or 10,000 euros and get out of it. That's what I mean. Like from my former circle, who then organize an event once a year or collect money for cancer. Yeah, that's all well and good, but what is your circle actually doing? The other 300 for 160 days a year?
Many see that as just public relations like what biker gangs do. It's a good thing when a nice charity event is organized and donations are made, but that doesn't relieve you of responsibility for other actions and incidents. But people like that like to do it because it just,
Is a kind of indulgence.
no, I donated. I'm a good person. No.
Axel, you don't need to imagine. He spends 2 years with these people, so that connection is real. He also appeared in videos with Sinan G, who was accused of being involved in pedophilia. You don't know that. I'm not in the rap game or into anything bad. And then 2 years later, he's sitting together with city representatives from Cologne and Bonn. Oh, come on, guys, I'm sorry. We don't need much research. Just watch these videos. Axel, I'll play one briefly so you understand.
But Philipp Schlaffer, you have to want to see it. And I'm telling you,
This...
people, they'll probably end up bragging about it because he has a media presence, he's loud, he organizes events, and of course that sounds better.
Carsten Stahl was there, the hall was packed, and there were standing ovations. Finally, someone spoke the language of the youth and wasn't afraid of anything.
Of course, that's better than inviting someone who might not put on such a show, but instead sets up a 6-month program to effectively reduce and address bullying. But that doesn't make a nice headline for those politicians or for the editors of some newspapers. They want headlines, they want polarization, and that's what Carsten Stahl offers. And that's why I'm telling you honestly, they just don't give a damn about what's caused by something like that.
They don't care about research here either. It's not that simple. They work with taxpayers' money and our politicians are accountable, so it's not that simple.
Hello, Jules. When you shout into the ring again, the next minute starts. Nothing crazy happens. It's fine. Hello, Jules. Did you come? Is everything all right with RDL in the series? No, I was young and needed the money. You are young and need the money. I had never used YouTube or similar platforms, but during the start of the Corona lockdown, you could try anything. Then at some point we realized on YouTube that it's actually quite interesting. I always thought it was kind of childish, and that's how we came across you again. And I have to say, my wife and I always celebrated you, especially because of the Child Protection Association. I think it's good that I have someone. And to be honest, you dedicate your whole life to this, just like I dedicated 9 years of my life. Yes, you don't just do it on the side. This all began a few months ago, or maybe a bit earlier. Then suddenly it happened where you, I would say, became the voice for Germany. For everyone sitting in Germany, you are basically the voice. Well, I mean, you know.
A lot of people write to me and say, you say what we think. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. I'm the voice of child protection and now also against injustice. And every person who feels treated unfairly naturally looks for someone who might say what they also do. Of course, there are also people like that.
What kind of God complex do you have calling yourself the voice of child protection? And now I'm generally the voice against injustice. That's how he likes to see himself. Honestly, Carsten, you're neither the voice of child protection nor of fighting injustice. You're just a loudmouth troublemaker who does his own thing. I knew...
The video would still upset you. More is coming. What?
Who don't like me is, sure, it's not about promoting popularity, but I think millions of people, especially those who really get chills down their spine. It's not only those with little, even people who have enough still say, it can't be like this. It's one thing for someone to succeed, but there are still others. I see that other people are struggling and I still want to help, and I think it's unfair, and that's the chain after all. I could also say, well, I'm the one who's doing well enough or whatever. What does it have to do with me?
That's also meaningless.
So that's how it works.
You're right. Just like keeping ships safe in the harbor, people protect themselves on social media. A lot of people pay attention to what they say and how they do it.
The second thing I would do right away, the very first thing, I will even need...
A chancellor, Carsten, the bad man in politics. When are you leaving? Since you have my vote.
Can I just butt in for a moment? He tried that. Carsten Stahl also wanted to get into politics. He first ran for the Free Voters, then he wanted to run with the Citizens Alliance. Yes, or the Citizens, whatever that group was called, but they didn't get the necessary support signatures together. So Carsten Stahl doesn't seem to be that popular after all. Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be much desire or will to push a loudmouth like that into politics.
Just wait for the party's political program first. I'm sure it's definitely based on reality. Simple to implement and finance, everything is easy. You know, the thing is, with this YouTube audience, you could just say yes. I'm for higher pensions. I'm for free daycare centers, kindergartens. I'm for more education. I'm for all day care at schools.
Including 10,000 euros in costs, a mother's salary for the children.
Yes, it's that simple.
If I enter politics, there are two things I'd do immediately.
That's easy.
Two things I would do right away. The very first, I would do everything I could to cut the Bundestag in half to start with, so that half of these people who aren't needed at all are gone. And then, and this is the most important action, when you have this power that is dangerous in the wrong hands, or it shows. Give a person power and he shows his true character. You are a podcast.
I really don't feel any. I feel zero vibes to give you power. I have zero.
But now I don't know. So, if it's really such a heartfelt matter for him to stand up for child protection, still the first measure is to cut the Bundestag in half.
For the children,
I agree, I think it's good, but needs to be reduced. We have too many representatives there, and right away this tone suggests they're incapable and don't need anything. Blah, 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 you know? Basically, doesn't every single member of parliament do a better job than you in your one-man show? My dear Carsten, who are you to judge what kind of work these people are doing? No, so you're sitting on your high horse again? I'm the king, surrounded by a few brown noses who flatter him. Carsten, you should go into politics. You're always so quick to criticize.
it's getting critical right away.
And then it starts.
Employees should fight for citizens, not themselves, but they don't do that. When a Schultz stands there and says, I didn't even know how sad I should look when he talked about struggling to pay for electricity. Mr. Schultz, if you are the chancellor, you have the duty to act like one. That was antisocial, shameful, and completely unworthy of a chancellor. We say,
The viewers know neither of us were fans of Olaf Scholz. I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad the traffic light coalition is over. No one can say we have any sympathy for Olaf Scholz now. But to really portray the man here like Carsten Stahl, that former bouncer, that RTL2 actor, and he claims that he can judge how a chancellor should behave. Or he wants to know whether Scholz really had honest emotions when someone told him about their suffering or not. And then these stupid platitudes, you have to fight for the people, you have to fight for the people.
Axel, he's sitting right now with a pimp in his Rolls Royce. Yeah? He's sitting with a pimp in a Rolls Royce discussing how someone can't afford electricity prices. What is it now? That's as ivory tower as it gets.
This is real life. Philip.
just a citizen and a father who simply says at some point enough is enough. Whoa.
That's always like, whoa, I can't listen to this anymore. Yeah, I am. Like, he always signs citizen and father, or concerned father, concerned citizen. It's always, whoa. That's so full of pathos, this artificially stirred up stuff. And then he knows exactly, you can't get RTL3 out of Carsten Stahl, right? You can't get RTL3 out of him.
Yeah, he does. He lives his role.
He sees the camera and immediately gets into character. Yes?
I see elderly people suffering, children, and millions unsure how they'll pay their bills. And you just have to speak up.
Yeah, like, what do you mean, man? I know all the politicians in the Bundestag and Bundesrat are probably wondering how to make things worse for retirees.
They don't care about anything, Philip. They only think about themselves. All members of parliament went into politics just to enrich themselves, with no concern for the people or whether they can pay their bills. And he doesn't care what happens to the children who are suffering in Germany. Man, just open your eyes. Everything could be so nice, couldn't it? Yeah, Carsten Stahl, the great world leader. Yeah, the great politician. Yeah, the genius who could turn everything here for the better and still wasn't made chancellor. Scandal, scandal.
Lano, you're successful. You've been at it for years. You can afford a Maybach and many other things.
In a Maybach, sorry.
Still, you think about it and talk to me about people who can't afford that.
Definitely yes, Werner won't be able to fall asleep. He won't be able to fall asleep.
Great, just great, Philip. There's someone who can afford a Maybach through prostitution, and he's thinking, yes, there are people who are poor. It makes me wonder how much he actually donates from his earnings and how much he gives personally.
If this money, then... We do have a very clear code that certain money from certain circles wouldn't be accepted, that's for sure. It's simply not possible if it's fines that come through the courts that might be allocated. Yes, but everything else has its limits. You just can't do child protection and then say, here, I'm the concerned citizen and father. And then that's the end of it. From the area of organized crime, sorry, everyone knows that anyone who is involved in the red light district is dealing with organized crime. Period, yes.
But it's Carsten Stahl, he himself. I followed that on the side. There was apparently a legal dispute because he also tried to take legal action against it, but then he lost. It was said about him that he supposedly also made his money through prostitution. That was based on the fact that Carsten Stahl supposedly claimed in one of his books that he managed an OnlyFans model. I wouldn't equate that with prostitution either, but apparently the court dismissed his lawsuit. Apparently Carsten Stahl doesn't mind that either. So then with OnlyFans, helping people make money that way, I would also view critically. If I'm truly committed to child protection, respect, and tolerance, I would view that critically. Yes, then also helping someone myself to earn money in this field. If there were other alternatives that would be less dangerous, to put it cautiously.
It was an honor for me as well.
That we are meeting here today.
It's important to show people. The crucial thing is, of course, you don't have to be ashamed of being successful or not. The question is always how, but everyone has to decide that for themselves. Climate activists, where were they last?
Where were you for the children? So, look here, how Carsten is beating around the bush, and it's edited. Axel, right, he's beating around the bush, and it's edited how he's beating around the bush. Yeah, if he profited. Otherwise, it's every person for themselves. Take a clear stand. You're the Chancellor of Justice here. Yeah, well, that's just wishy-washy talk from the enemy.
Now you show up and act all high and mighty. Where have you been the last few years? You claim to protect the climate for the kids, but you're actually deceiving them.
Man, he's so annoying. He's so annoying, dude. They're coming from a completely different perspective. They're focused on the global aspect. You're about child protection in Germany, that's a totally different level. These are people who have been committed to this for decades. That's actually where the Greens originally came from, and the ecological movement has existed since the Industrial Revolution.
Wait
a minute, Axel, no. But here it's about people who see the very existence of this world in danger. They say there might not be a livable world for children anymore. But no, only he does child protection. Everyone else doesn't do child protection. That's, it's actually a child protection world itself. If anyone gets involved or stands up at any political level, I don't know, more. Daycares, more schools, that retirees are better off, that it comes on so many levels, that benefits society as a whole. No, only he cares.
Philip, if I were a representative of the Greens now and I heard such populist bullshit from the other guy, I would say, I'm fighting to make sure our children have a future worth living. While basically all you're doing here is promoting yourself, my dear friend, there will be no future for the children either. If the forests are cut down, if the air is polluted, if the climate reaches such heights that we all burn alive outside. That's just talk. What's the point? Shouldn't he offer reasonable criticism? He's just elevating himself again. It's that God complex showing. Carsten Stahl, I'm the only one doing the right thing. I'm the only one who knows what needs to be done now. And anyone who doesn't follow me on this path, or maybe chooses a different path that seems more important to them, yes, with other topics and other issues than the ones I set, that's a problem. Yes, they are part of those who are to blame for the children suffering immensely. Yes.
9 years with climate protection. I have never endangered anyone's life, blocked any rescue lanes, glued myself anywhere, or committed any criminal acts. Politics is blind on the left and green side. Stupid, yes.
Sorry, just a quick correction here. That probably wasn't Carsten Stahl who made money with OnlyFans. I got that mixed up. Sorry, I just don't want anyone accusing me of fake news, slander, or anything else here. Carsten Stahl had nothing to do with OnlyFans and didn't manage anyone to make money on OnlyFans either. That was actually false information, which I wanted to verify again. But then I realized, I was talking nonsense. I'm terribly sorry. I wanted to clarify this now so people don't later accuse me unnecessarily. But something was blamed on Carsten just because he has nothing to do.
You can hear me here,
You can already hear it.
also outside. Yeah, left and green eye blind. You can already hear it, I think. Yes, of course.
That's why she accepts it. I haven't heard any Green politicians speak out.
Empathy. It's about empathy. As a person, I'm happy when people selflessly commit themselves to a good cause. Whether it's animal protection, environmental protection, or child protection, these are all important issues. But he just has his claim to absoluteness. Only his issue has to be the most important issue for everyone. Everyone has to follow the path he takes, and if he can't stand someone, then that person is generally out. So that's neither respectful, definitely not tolerant, and not empathetic at all.
Saying something isn't the same as judging. In the end, they're like their gorillas who glue themselves to the streets, which benefits them. For me, it's just disgusting, and I'm already looking forward to the day when I finally meet one of those climate activists. Maybe it's actually planned now with Bild that I'll sit down with them when they're sitting there.
You think they'll come on strong?
They're stuck, they can't get away.
I want now. From now on, we'll go in and escape a bit from the bad guy, the Albanian friend.
I forgot those, the ones with the red bell here.
No, I was in the Caribbean for 3 days because of my lungs and so on. But what about the Caribbean?
No Caribbean, but yes.
Are you red just on your chest or all over?
Yeah, the sun tore me up, but I'm not doing too bad. Caribbean, yes, you know, I treated myself to something, so you know what I mean. But it backfired. I underestimated the sun. Are you all doing well?
We never have the kind of fashion we're used to, as you can see.
So you just call everything over? Yes, just briefly on that topic again. Somehow the payment actually worked out. The pants were supposed to be auctioned off for a good cause. Actually, he had no idea, so a decent amount of money was raised. The biggest part should also go to your Child Protection Association, because we know that with you, the money really goes where it's supposed to. Actually, I really have to say now.
Where does Carsten Stahl's money end up, if not in his own pockets? I wouldn't know that he does anything particularly charitable with his earnings and his money. Basically, says Carsten Stahl, yes, my work is important. I educate people and provide anti-bullying training as my contribution to the children. But really to actually donate and say, hey, I'll go to charitable organizations and give them money, for example, those who make children's dreams come true. Yes, those who help terminally ill children. Yes, something you've done very often, dear Philip, for which you have my utmost respect. So what does Carsten Stahl do? So is there anything Carsten Stahl isn't involved in? Where does the money go for the children who need help, who need protection, who need care? Where are his donations? I'd like to see those sometime.
I'm not sure. If you check his page and follow him, you'll see he does very few events each year. I've completed his events by mid-January. I'm not sure and I can't check now. Is it about them donating 5,000 euros here?
I'm getting memories and everything right now, but my mind just jumped to it. Let's just keep it simple. I'm going to make a decision over your head now. We'll take this side where you said Setsernai, I'd say. The first bid is at 5,000, that's from me. That's my say. If someone outbids me the 5,000 after the auction, they'll still go to you. So please don't hold back there. Please don't hold back.
Yeah, I think it's actually well-intentioned, but some people can't differentiate anymore. Where does my money come from? How is it earned? What structures do I come from? I think I know that myself. Still a Hells Angels member in Germany. The symbols remain banned as a criminal organization. Where does this money come from? A big round of applause, that's great, yes, but what has grown out of this? What has grown out of this? What happened with it?
I don't know. That's also part of the talk. The environment, that's really problematic. He always has to keep an eye on that. He's introduced to young people. He's presented as a role model, as a coach, as a guide. And by doing so, he also leads young people who follow him into these circles. Because if I'm a young person who attended an event by Carsten Stahl, the mayor was there and said, great guy, listen to him. I also liked it. He gave a good performance. Then I go to his Facebook, Instagram, Twitter accounts, and suddenly I see, oh, here is Boseman, oh, here is Werner, Frankfurt, and what else do I know? And then with just one step, I'm immediately in an environment where things could quickly lead to violence, crime, prostitution, and so on. Well, no one can deny that these are all people who are involved with environments that are potentially dangerous. That's exactly what I avoid, especially since I always carry it in front of me like a Christian monstrance. I'm devoted to children, my life is for them, and protecting them means everything. I don't know if I would find it so great if my children, who follow me and watch me, who maybe look up to me somewhere, because of such an appearance, they suddenly end up on such sites where they are right in the middle instead of just being there in areas of organized crime, or at least in confrontations that are carried out physically and have little to do with respect, empathy, and tolerance.
Axel, for me, what remains of it is me. I'm interested in what city representatives or the Kölner Stadtanzeiger say about it. I'd be interested to know how people see that.
Yeah, the Stadtanzeiger isn't at fault. It's just a smaller local paper with its own heroes, etc. So the Stadtanzeiger, you have to say, did nothing. But I would also ask people here, what can I do, dear people? If you're from the region or even beyond, just politely and kindly ask the responsible politicians how they came to invite Carsten Stahl, who has no expertise, no training, and no evaluated concept. Yes, and to let him loose on young people to allow him access and maybe to shed some light on that. What environment is behind that and what discussions are happening behind his social media channels? I'm not sure that's the best idea for a mayor or chief mayor to invite people like that.
Dear communication, no.
So right now there's even an interview with Carsten Stahl on local city heroes.
Yes, the local city heroes are on the move. I'm here with Carsten Stahl. Dear Carsten, thank you very much for taking the time for us. Yes?
Yes, thanks so much for your hospitality.
You're very welcome, Carsten. Carsten, there are some really exciting stories from you again. And above all, the main feature, especially regarding bullying and fighting, stands out. There are many impressions. Tell us about it.
Yes, for me, child protection is not just a word, but a priority. And today, children experience extreme exclusion, extreme violence, and are extremely desperate because of bullying, violence, hate, and racism in schools. Many schools still claim there are no problems, fearing possible consequences. Threaten the school's reputation, or sometimes they're unaware of the real situation. But they also feel simply abandoned by the ministries and the school authorities. I know this because I regularly visit schools and have met over 100,000 students at more than 340 schools. I work with students, teachers, and parents, so I see what goes on. That's why standing up for education and prevention is so important. Helping children, including victims, perpetrators, and accomplices, recognize what is right is most important.
It's interesting and helpful. How can you be proactive in that area? What's your approach? Proactively raising awareness among young people? How do you go about it? Do you give lectures? I've heard about Campstall, for example. Also bullying in general. You can be seen on social media and so on. Carsten, what would you suggest? How can we tackle this issue? Also that people pass it on and actually do something about it.
First, don't look away. Look, don't stay silent. Speak up and address grievances as they arise. By being open and direct, we can find solutions. For me, I address it on social media, in regular media, but above all, I also address it on a political level. I'm not a politician, but I've spoken in the Bundestag, state parliaments, and houses of representatives. I'm clear and direct about it, and I don't mince words. But I can only do that because, unlike some others who speak from theory, I'm actually in schools. I'm there where it hurts, where things happen. I work with students, with teachers, with parents, with everyone together.
But I can note that he talked a lot just now but didn't say anything. All we hear is how important he is, how many schools he's been to, where he's already performed, but specifically answering the question, what are you actually doing about it? There's nothing there, so don't look away, look closer. Those are just empty calendar quotes. Any 13-year-old could recite that to you after 5 minutes of research in some self-help books. So where is your concrete contribution? And just because you're at schools doesn't mean you really know what's going on there. You're there for 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 hours at most. You have absolutely no idea what the reality is like there. All you get is a filtered version from people who already think you're great, who are already brought down to your level, because there's nothing of any real quality coming from you. Just these dumb platitudes. Yeah, listen, go there, speak up, complain clearly, just like I've been doing for years. That's a priority. Man, seriously, nothing comes out of that at all.
Yeah, Axel, speaking of nothing, that's it from us for now on the topic of Carsten Stahl down here. There will be a lot of angry citizens coming, thank you. If the angry citizens feel like reading something, read the book by Dear Axel Writes. My book is also out, of course, Hate Creates Violence, but now it's also available as an audiobook linked below. Hate Creates Violence. Order from King or the Kongs. Beef fans, use Philip 10 for 10% off. Thank you to everyone who supports this. Thank you, much respect. Thank you also at Z Plus with Philip 10 for 10% off. Thank you to everyone involved. If not, check out the extremism page. If you want to see Axel and what he's doing there. In the prevention of extremism of any political or religious kind and in anti-violence work, feel free to contact Extremismus DE, visit the page, check it out, get in touch if you want to know what we do there as an association, and feel free to reach out. Otherwise, give a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. And we're just happy that you're with us. Axel, thank you very much for your time. And as always, I sign off with an ahoy from the coast.